Hello, all you freedom-loving people. President Trump once again tells us what he thinks of the Epstein files on hand, while he makes more tariff deals, and the Pharma tariffs will kick in soon, and the Senate passed a historic bill to cut spending. Okay, let's get into it. The Senate is now one step closer to approving a request from President Trump to cancel roughly $9 billion in spending. The cut amounts to approximately 0.1% of federal spending, and it focuses on foreign aid and public media funding. On Tuesday night, the Senate voted 51-50 to advance the rescission package, with Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote. 3 Republicans, including Senators Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Mitch McConnell, voted against advancing the legislation. The main complaint of these 3 Republican senators was that the White House refused to give an account-by-account rundown of what funding would be cut once Congress clears the package. After the votes brought the legislation to 50-50, the vote remained open for nearly half an hour before Vance arrived. The vote was a major step forward for President Trump and Senate Majority Leader John Thune after weeks of negotiation and infighting over the rescission package. This single package is one of the biggest rescission packages ever approved under the process. Historically, such bills have managed to pass the House but failed in the Senate. Now, Congress has 45 days to approve the package. The package would codify several cuts identified by the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, including cuts to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and Foreign Aid. The package will have to be on President Trump's desk by July 18th if the cuts are going to be made. U.S. consumer prices rose 0.3% in June, the Department of Labor said on Tuesday. Compared with a year earlier, the Consumer Price Index rose 2.7%, which is slightly above the consensus forecast for 2.6%. Core prices, which exclude volatile food and energy categories, rose 0.2%. A pickup in inflation could prompt the Fed to decide to leave interest rates unchanged at its next meeting in 2 weeks. This is likely to deepen Fed Chairman Jerome Powell's conflict with President Trump. President Trump is not concerned about this level of inflation in the United States, and he has been urging the Federal Reserve to cut short-term interest rates. And again, President Trump posted on Truth Social the same day. He wrote, "Consumer prices low, bring down the Fed rate now." He later wrote, "Fed should cut rates by 3 points. Very low inflation, $1 trillion a year would be saved." But Powell has repeatedly said that he wants to see how the economy reacts to President Trump's tariff policies before considering whether to lower borrowing costs. The economic data this time is very subtle. They are higher than expected, but only by a little bit. So it seems to make sense to interpret it either way. The White House rebutted the claim that tariffs cause inflation, pointing out that new car prices have fallen despite the 25% tariff on automobiles and the 50% tariff on steel and aluminum. The White House also noted that clothing prices are still lower than they were 3 months ago, even though they rose in June. Eric Winograd, a chief economist at the asset management firm AllianceBernstein, believes that what is happening is the inflationary impact of the tariff policy is gradually becoming apparent. He also said that without the uncertainty of the tariffs, the Fed would have already started cutting rates. Dan North, a senior economist at Alliance Trade North America, said, "You get these pretty massive tariff increases. It's bound to pass through to the consumers, and I still think it will, but it's not in this report so far." And because of President Trump's dissatisfaction with Powell, there has been speculation that President Trump intends to fire Powell early, although President Trump has repeatedly denied this. But at one point, he did publicly muse about removing Powell and merging the Fed and the Treasury. Under normal circumstances, the president does not have the power to remove the chairman of the Fed. But over the years, we've all seen President Trump's ability to go off the beaten path, so there's no guarantee that he won't come up with a novel way to get what he wants for the betterment of the country. Recently, the Trump administration opened an investigation into a $2.5 billion renovation of the Federal Reserve's headquarters, questioning the chairman's stewardship of the agency and whether he truthfully presented the project to Congress. Many people think that this investigation is targeting Powell. The comments of Kevin Hassett, the director of the National Economic Council, have reinforced this speculation. And President Trump also raised this concern today when he was asked whether he would rule out firing Powell.
Ruling out the idea of firing Jerome Powell.
I don't rule out anything, but I think it's highly unlikely unless he has to leave for fraud. I mean, it's possible there's fraud involved with the $2.7 billion renovation. This is a renovation. How do you spend $2.7 billion?
Hassett said on Sunday on ABC News' This Week that whether the president has the legal authority to fire Powell before his term is up is being looked into. And certainly, if there's cause, he does. On Tuesday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told Bloomberg that the president said numerous times he's not going to fire Jay Powell. And he compared President Trump's public pressure to former college basketball coach Bobby Knight's working the refs. He said President Trump seems to prefer the Bobby Knight school. But at the same time, he suggested that Powell should step down as governor at the same time, since his term as Fed chairman ends in May 2026, and he should leave the Fed board when his term as chair is up. He believes it would be very confusing for the market for a former Fed chair to stay on. Powell's term as Fed chairman will end in May 2026, but his term as board member will extend through January 2028. Bessent also said the formal process of selecting the new Fed chair has already begun. He said there are a lot of great candidates and we'll see how rapid it progresses. It's President Trump's decision and it will move at his speed. President Trump has made it clear that Powell's successor must be a supporter of rate cuts. But JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon opposes President Trump's rebuke of Powell since he thinks that the Fed's independence is critical. Dimon told reporters playing around with the Fed can often have adverse consequences. And the Wall Street Journal reported that Dimon is the first leader of a major U.S. financial institution to publicly respond to President Trump's attacks on Powell. And indeed, many on Wall Street are privately concerned that political pressure will erode erode the Fed's credibility. Wall Street widely believed that intervention in the independence of the Federal Reserve would cause a drastic impact on global capital flows because it may shake the United States public debt and the dollar as the global financial foundation of the status of the United States. House Democrats introduced a resolution to force a vote on releasing the files that are related to Jeffrey Epstein on July 15th, and by a vote of 211 to 210, that was entirely along the partisan line. The House rejected the resolution to release the files. This meant that there would be no House debate or vote related to the release of the files. But this resolution was actually attached to the Genius Act for the regulation of stable coins. So some Republicans, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, are concerned that the Genius Act does not have a clear clause that would prohibit government control of a central bank digital currency. They want the blockchain to remain decentralized so that it's not centralized. This way, a future administration will not be able to turn your bank account on and off. Representative Mark Vesey, who introduced the Epstein resolution, said on the House floor that the files should be released because predators, such as Epstein, as well as collaborators, should face consequences. The Trump administration is accused by Vesey of not releasing the Epstein files. He said, "When the moment of truth came, they slammed the door shut." Other Democrats have also joined the criticism. Representative Dan Goldman wrote on X, "Republicans spent years screaming for the Epstein files to be released. Now Donald Trump wants to hide them. Today, every R can vote to release the files. Will they give the American people transparency or block the truth to protect Trump?" House Rules Committee ranking member Jim Govern made a similar attempt. He pushed for a committee vote on Monday on releasing the files, but it failed too. Representative Ralph Norman was the only Republican on the committee to vote in favor. But House Speaker Mike Johnson stated that he supports releasing the files. However, he is opposed to the Democrats' procedural motion. He believes that Attorney General Pam Bondi needs to explain the situation.
I'm for transparency. We're intellectually consistent in this. Look, Reagan used to tell us, we should trust the American people. I believe in that principle. I know President Trump does as well, and I trust him. I mean, he put together a team of his choosing, and they're doing a great job. It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide it. I mean, the White House and the White House team are privy to facts that I don't know. I mean, this isn't my lane. I haven't been involved in that. But I agree with the sentiment that we need to put it out there.
Among those who have publicly asked for transparency is President's own daughter-in-law, Lara Trump. President Trump has also said that Pam Bondi should release whatever she thinks is credible on Jeffrey Epstein, while he has continued to praise her work.
The Attorney General's handled that very well. She's really done a very good job, and I think that when you look at it, you'll understand that. I would like to see that also. But I think the Attorney General, the credibility is very important, and you want credible evidence for something like that. And I think the Attorney General has handled it very well. But she's handled it very well, and it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release, yeah.
And today, President Trump once again expressed his hope that people would not focus on Epstein, who is long dead. Rather, people should focus on the great things that are happening right now.
No, it's I call it the Epstein hoax. Takes a lot of time and effort. Instead of talking about the great achievements, we've had a great gentleman yesterday, as you know, went on CNBC and he made the statement that Trump may go down as the greatest president of all in the United States. And instead of talking about the things we've achieved, we've had tremendous achievement. They're wasting their time with a guy who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including in the Middle East. I mean, you see it.
President Trump warned that U.S. tariffs on pharmaceutical imports are likely to kick in on August 1st, and duty implementation on semiconductors could come soon as well. President Trump announced the drug tariffs while he returned to Washington after attending an artificial intelligence summit in Pennsylvania yesterday.
Pharmaceuticals will be tariffed probably at the end of the month, and we're going to start off with a low tariff and give the pharmaceutical companies a year or so to build. And then we're going to make it a very high tariff because we got to move them in. Look, there's two ways you do it. You make money or you have them move here so they don't have to pay the tariff. Those are the two ways. The pharmaceutical companies are moving back to America where they should be.
So this means that the levies would come along with the paused reciprocal tariffs that were laid out in April, as well as the planned tariffs on copper imports. The new warning comes as President Trump has sent letters in recent days to over 20 trade partners. The letters outline tariffs on goods that are to be imported to the United States from trade partner countries beginning in August. These letters set the new baseline tariff level at 20% to 40%. President Trump also maintained that he would continue to carry out negotiations, and yesterday President Trump also announced an agreement with Indonesia, reducing the 32% rate that he announced in one of the letters to 19%. And Indonesia agreed to purchase $15 billion of U.S. energy, $4.5 billion worth of agricultural products, and 50 Boeing jets as part of the agreement. President Trump also predicted that he could strike 2 or 3 more trade deals with countries before August. President Trump said, "I would say India, and we have a couple others, but I have to tell you, for the most part, I'm very happy with the letters." President Trump also said that he intends to impose tariff rates of more than 10% on imports from smaller nations. He said that his administration will release a letter soon to notify those countries of the tariff rates that they will face. President Trump explained that the tariff rates were determined based on the trade deficits that those countries have with the United States and other factors. But the list of such countries is not entirely clear yet. However, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick clarified that the tariffs would apply to smaller nations such as those in Africa and the Caribbean. Let's talk about an elite Chinese cyber spy group, Salt Typhoon. This group is responsible for one of the most expansive cyber espionage campaigns against the U.S. to date. A June DHS memo revealed that Salt Typhoon has burrowed even further than previously known. It invaded the National Guard for nearly a year, and it may have obtained sensitive military or law enforcement information. The memo describing the Pentagon's findings said that the group extensively compromised a U.S. state's Army National Guard network from March 2024 through December 2024. A National Guard Bureau spokesperson confirmed the compromise but declined to share details. He stated that this attack has not prevented the National Guard from accomplishing assigned state or federal missions. The DHS report found that the hack likely provided Beijing with data that could facilitate the hacking of other states' Army National Guard units and possibly many of their state-level cybersecurity partners. A spokesperson for China's embassy in Washington did not deny the campaign, but said cyber attacks are a common threat faced by all countries, and Americans are not able to provide reliable evidence that the Salt Typhoon is linked to the Chinese government. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family because everybody deserves to know the truth.